Transracial adoption is any adoption where the race of the child doesn't match the race of the parents. A lot of families, I think, are a little bit intimidated by the idea of transracial adoption, and on one end of the spectrum, I sort of call it the love is enough end of the spectrum, and we don't need to talk about race, we don't need to talk about our differences or culture or anything. I just need to love you like my child, and then all of those things will sort of disappear. After a lot of those transracial adoptees grew up, they said, I wish we would have talked about this more, because I feel like I don't have a full idea of who I am. And I think that the way that Adoptions Together sees it is that we think a lot about race, we talk a lot about race, and in the same spirit that we're open to all kinds of families, we believe that any loving family can provide a wonderful, loving home to a child, and that it's really important to think and talk about race along the way.
I didn't know what transracial adoption would become or was about until I became a father of an African American child. I thought I was prepared. I thought I did everything that would get me ready, but the journey, once I started, what he brought to me, what has happened over the years, is more than I ever expected.
Oh, I didn't see that. Oh.
To adopt transracially demands more of us as parents, to step outside of who we are, to be there for our kids.
My parents were very anxious to start a family. They had been married for about 3 or 4 years, and they were really excited to become parents. They had run into some bumps along the way. They had unexpected fertility issues, and so that's sort of how they kind of found adoption. So that's sort of how we came together.
People would ask us, why are you different color than your father? Early on, it was kind of an awkward question in terms of, because I didn't really know.
When children enter school around the age of 5, that sort of brings a whole new element of race relations into a child's life.
Black kids would constantly question me about being white, for example. They would call me names like Oreo because I was, black on the outside, white on the inside. Apparently there's a cultural way, black kids should act and white kids should act.
I've met people over the years that have said, race doesn't matter to me, so therefore this is what I'm doing. That's not enough. People who are considering this need to do a lot of soul searching, and they need to understand things about themselves. What are my limits? What can I handle? What can I handle? Am I prepared? What should I do to make this a success, to make sure my child grows up happy, healthy, independent, and can leave one day as a functioning adult?
There's Janice.
Being and living intentionally within our community so that they see people who are their godparents, our neighbors. They have role models within the community.
Another thing that was very helpful is that he was very honest with me, and he would always tell me what was going on, and that definitely helped me understand what we were and then just keep building that confidence.
I think that that's one thing that I really appreciate from my adoptive parents, is that they always gave me a space to talk about it. And I felt like I could always do it on my own time and when I felt ready.
About maybe 18 months, if that, and we went to a gospel concert. And I was the only white person that I could see, and he was on my shoulders and we're dancing to the music. And I thought, this is so cool. I would not have done this if it weren't for my son.
If you look around my house, we have all this African art, and he would tell me about it, and he would just kind of embrace my culture. Celebrating Kwanzaa here a few years in a row. He even knew some more stuff about Kwanzaa than the other black members that we invited.
We'll be playing in a park, or we will be in a grocery store, or at a festival, and have older African American grandmothers approach us and say, "What product are you using for your daughter?"
Transracial adoption matters to kids, It's a spectrum of how kids feel about it. Some kids, it might be a thing that they're very fixated on. Some kids really might not think about it very much.
If adoptive parents put their children at the center of it and know how important it is to be able to have those conversations and to acknowledge the fact that they're adopted and to embrace their heritage, I think that that's what's most important.
You have to pay attention to these kids, what they're saying, what they're not saying, what's going on in their lives.
Children do tell you what they need, and they are that great window to your soul and theirs.
There's a lot of work involved in this. It's worth it. It is absolutely the best journey I could have ever taken.